Alright, so this is gonna be an interesting enough experience. I'm gonna be making Phantom Rants. I guess not all of them are going to be recorded, but most of the time, I'm just gonna be real. Recently, I haven't really had the motivation to write rants because it's like 10 times more complicated writing a rant than it is to just sit here and rant about it. So pretty much I'm gonna move a bit, like a good decent amount of time, I guess. I'm gonna try to move Phantom Rants a bit towards me just literally ranting about different topics. So, since I don't feel like doing the free week first, I'm gonna go ahead and make this first episode about the main character's prompt that I did not do, like all the other prompts that I have not done. Pretty much the prompt says when a series changes the main character when a series changes the main character, a common complaint in the fandom is that the Aaron hunters seem to completely drop all development and character personality when a cat is no longer a main character. Do you agree? When the Series 2 came around, how did you feel about Firestar as a side character? Did he still possess the characteristics that we got to know and recognize as a main character? If you think he's lost his personality, then what changed? Give an example of his behavior. Yada yada yada. Really, I think we get the main point. Do former main characters become straight up irrelevant? My answer to this is no. I don't know. I honestly don't know who came up with this whole concept of, oh my god, when a main character becomes a side character, now all of a sudden they lose every bit of personality. Literally, the straightforward answer is this. The reason why we think a character has changed once they're no longer the main character is because a main character is very different from a side character in the Warrior series. A main character, we don't only see what they do and how they respond to certain external stimuli, but in this situation, now all of a sudden we're dealing with issues that happen within. We hear their inner voices. We know pretty much whatever they're thinking, whatever they're mulling over, whatever it's like, oh my god, this is causing stress in my life. Oh my god, this is making me happy in life. Everything the character thinks, we know about. So part of that is what makes up a character. Pretty much what makes up a main character, to be specific. A main character, in comparison to a side character, is someone who we see. They are the protagonist. They're the guy that we're always focused on. So when you're dealing with Firestar from the main series books and Firestar from like any other book past there, we don't know what Firestar's thinking in the other books. But in the main series, we do, because he's the main character. We hear his inner voice all the time. We hear, when he's struggling, when he's trying to understand things, when he's being stressed out over the fact that Cloudpaw literally got his dumb self kidnapped. We know all this information. This is all information that we get through listening to what's going on in Firestar's head. But once we lose that, when main characters are shifted, we don't lose that inner view. We don't lose the idea of what's going on in their head. Well, no, we do. What do I mean by that? When we change the main characters, who they are isn't lost. They still think the exact same way that they did when they were main characters. The only difference is we don't know that. We don't hear that. We're not actually capable of hearing it because the character is we're not focused on that character. Instead, now all of a sudden we're focused on what Bramble Claw and Squirrel Flight are thinking. We're not focused on Firestar. So therefore, even though he acts the exact same, he seems like a less fleshed out character because that's what they have to do. When you take a main character and turn them into a side character, suddenly they're no longer the same character. They're not, well, they are, but you can't gain the same information from that character that we're so fond and used to. So therefore, they don't have a change in personality. There's never this change or alteration made to them. It's just a different point of view that's being presented. And probably one of the better examples is Bramble Claw. We have had Bramble Claw since the first books, when he was little Bramble Paw and he was struggling when he was, for a while he's been struggling to get rid of Tiger Star's legacy. That's just a given. That's just what Bramble Claw deals with on the regular. That's a Bramble Claw-ish thing. And through the first series, you get to see him grow as a character. I mean, the second series, you get to see him grow as a character as he sort of, fights to not only free himself from Tiger Star's legacy, but at the same time fights to keep hold of that legacy in a different sense. And what I mean by that is, his dad's a bad guy and he might have been terrible, but, to him, he's grown fond of his father because his father is trying to make him into the best warrior that he can be. Air quotation marks on, the best warrior, because we all know what he's up to. But Bramble Claw doesn't know what we know, because Bramble Claw is Bramble Claw. But when the way the story progresses, in the beginning of the story, he's more focused on trying to be the best Bramble Claw he can be. And when he meets Hawkfrost and he starts having dreams from Tiger Star and trains with Tiger Star in the Dark Forest, it becomes he wants to be the best Bramble Claw son of Tiger Star that he can be. So he wants to outlive the demonic the demonic presence that his father has left behind. But at the same time, he wants to be like, oh yeah, I'm still Tiger Star's son, Oh, do you feel that way because I'm Tiger Star's son? Is that the reason? Blah, blah, blah. He uses that legacy as a weapon against others instead of staying with his original goal of trying to erase that side of him altogether. And by the end of the book, he does accept, he is Tiger Star's son. He is Tiger Star's son, but at the same time, now he's Bramble Claw. And what he has to do is 100% focus himself on being Bramble Claw. Even if that means accepting Tiger Star's blood that runs through him, even if it means accepting the bad things that he's done. The fact that he was momentarily tempted by Hawkfrost's offer, he wants to be the best Bramble Claw he can be. Then we go into the third series where, he's this strong, powerful, confident deputy who we all are like, yeah, Bramble Claw, Bramble Bay, he's dope. And then you see, it continues and it sort of emphasizes what we've learned in the second series where Bramble Claw is still trying to be the best him he can be. And that changes between Bramble Star Storm and Vision of Shadows, because now all of a sudden we have a Bramble Claw who is uncertain. He's trying to live up to the legacy that Firestar has set in place, and he wants to be the best Firestar he can be, which once again Sandstorm practically is like, what the hell are you doing? You know better than this. Like, what's wrong with you? And pretty much that's the big picture, the big issue here. He once again falls under this new pretense of, oh my god, I'm stressed. And this is something that you can see because we've seen how Bramble deals with issues previously. He suddenly is overwhelmed by the fact that now he's no longer deputy, he's leader. He's the guy that everyone turns to, when things go wrong. Instead of everyone going to Firestar for the issues, now it's Bramblestar. And it's something that he himself has to learn to overcome. And we're seeing his own personal struggles happen in the books. But everyone else who doesn't look at it that way, a lot of people look at it as, oh my god, Bramble not the same. He's a coward. He acts a certain way. He's changed. No, it's just him going through the same struggles that he's gone through without the same context. And, it is the lack of context that messes people up. It's the fact that you don't necessarily know that's why it's happening. And if you didn't read Bramble Storm, you honestly wouldn't understand, his thought process at all. Well, if you didn't read any other books at all, I think that's when the issue shows up, because you still kind of see a similar issue in the second series. So I guess that's not much of an excuse, but really, his personality doesn't change. It's just the way anyone who has, emotions deals with their problems. And that's literally how Bramble Claw works in that situation. do you do you think some ex main characters redeem themselves at some point? How did they? Like I said, there's nothing to redeem about them. They don't change. It's just their circumstances change. The fact that they're no longer a main character means that we don't get to see what's going on. That's like saying if your best friend, like you have a best friend in school or whatever, and all of a sudden they start acting differently. Oh, their personality changed. No, their circumstances changed. But the fact is, the way that you and I think, we know what we're thinking, correct? We know what we're thinking because that's literally how we go through every day. We might be sitting there, thinking, this Coca-Cola is really good. We know that we like the Coca-Cola because we're thinking that, but we don't know if the person across from us likes the Coca-Cola. They could just be drinking it because, they have nothing else to drink. Once again, it's a circumstance. You don't necessarily know what's going through the other person's head. So when you don't know that, now all of a sudden it becomes a different, what's the best way to describe it? I have to keep going back to saying it's a different, it's just our lack of knowledge of what goes through other people's heads that pretty much has these moments, pretty much causes these moments where it's like, oh, well, where people get confused about the personalities of characters and how they're displayed. But in reality, these character personalities are not changing at all, in my opinion. I personally believe that they're pretty much staying mostly the same. Now, if I could go into background characters and talk about how they don't have consistent personalities or how a lot of the personalities are copied, but I can save that for a rant on another day. This is already a long enough rant, so I think I'm going to cut it out and be like, okay, this is going to be the first of Phantom Rants, and someday I'll get up the motivation to make it look fancy and stuff, but, I'm just going to have it as a recording, so thank you for listening. I'll be recording the next one momentarily. Ha ha ha.